got something special this week. I was able to get my hands on the Batman v Superman Batman. This has been hard to find. I was able to find him at a specialty store just today. Spent a little bit more than I normally would. You guys know that I rarely spend full price for a figure. This one was full price plus, but I wanted him. I wanted this guy more than any of the other Batman figures because I love this suit. It's my favorite movie suit because it feels like I stepped out of the comics. So we're gonna have a little bit of fun. We're gonna do some things that a lot of people have been wanting to do with this figure that they've been excited about doing. First, we're gonna shorten the neck a little bit and we're gonna fix the head and we're gonna just texture this guy up. So let's get moving. I'm really excited to have this guy. I'm not a big fan of cloth capes, as you guys know, but this one is pretty good. I'm gonna try and pull it more down so that it can actually hang over him. That's my main problem with these capes, is that I want them to drape. And this one seems like it's gonna be able to, so I'm gonna keep it. Now, first things first, okay? So this neck peg is really big. This one is more in line with what we want because of the fact that the Ben Affleck Batman always looked like he had no neck. He was just like really squat. So what we're gonna do, I've got the head soaking in hot water right there. We're just gonna pull this sucker out. Now you can see the difference here in these sizes. This is what we're going for. Now I got this one right here from a Bizarro figure, but you can also get it from any of like the Hush version of Superman. They all have these smaller ones and the figures actually look better with the longer ones. So you can swap these and have the Superman look better. So let's go ahead and pull the head out and see what we're gonna look like. So I've had this soaking in hot water. Now the complaint that a lot of people have on these Affleck heads is they're not squat enough. So if you heat them up in the water and just squeeze it like this, just enough, then it's gonna make it look more like Ben Affleck. So I'm just gonna hold it for a minute and let it cool. And that should be sufficient to make him look the way we want him to look. So as you can see, he's just a little bit more squat than he was before. So now let's get him on the body and see how this guy looks. So all we're gonna do is take this little one with the needle nose pliers and we're just gonna shove it in place. Just push it as hard as you can and it goes in, and there we go. And then you take the head and you do the same thing. You just get it so that it kind of lines up in there and you push it and there we go. And now, as you can see, we've got a much meaner looking Batman in comparison to how his head was bigger. Now he's not as tall as he was, but he definitely looks beefier. Now what we're gonna do is simply, we're gonna go through with this Vallejo game wash and we're just gonna go over him. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna get it all in here and then we're gonna take just some toilet paper that I got right here and I'm gonna dab. That's all for right now. It's gonna be very simple because I want this texture to be much darker. So we're just gonna go over all of it and then dab. And you can see it's already making a difference. We've done this before. And then we'll hit some of the muscles here after the fact. We'll go through them and make it so that they stand out a little bit more. But you can already tell a difference. I mean, look at the difference between the legs and the torso. Huge difference right off the bat, nice and simple. This game wash is worth its weight in gold when it comes to customizing. Now, I don't use it as often as I used to because you guys will notice that I've started to spray paint my figures black and then build up from there, which I think is better. But with this guy, he doesn't need it. All we need to do is accent the colors. That's all we got to do on this guy. So that's all we're going to do. Accent him. Now, I don't often show when I do the backs because it's kind of boring because it's just the same as the front. But I figured I'd show you real quick. I'm just hanging them upside down so that the cape can hang. And I'm doing the same thing with the toilet paper. Just going through and adding that nice texture to everything. When I saw this guy, I thought, oh, you know, maybe he doesn't need any texture. But then the more I looked at him, I was like, or, you know, the accenting, maybe he doesn't need any of this stuff. But as you can see, he definitely does. This guy more than any, he's like a dirty Batman, so he needs it. And the more you put on and then wipe away, the better he is going to look. So there's the back. Don't forget the belt, because his belt needs to get dirty too. You need to make sure that all of the details are getting hit with this wash. This is like the perfect figure for showing off a wash because it's really all he needs. We might add some gold to the belt to see, but I'm not even sure if it'll need it. we'll play around and see. Now the thing about this Batman is that he had like a 5 o'clock shadow look. So I'm going to do the same thing with the wash on his face. And I'm going to kind of get in to some of these areas and just dirty up his face just a little bit. Maybe a little bit more on the chin. But you can see it gives him a little bit more of a look. You can get a little bit more depending on how much you want him to have. That's probably too much, but if you're going to move it around, and then if you need to dab it, dab it. But already it's giving him a much better sort of flesh tone look than he had going in. You can accent some of the lines too, like this, just lightly. Make him your Affleck Batman. Now what we're going to do is we're going to accent these muscles. We're going to hit underneath, like so. And we're just going to move it around. You might put a little bit here on the symbol just in some spots, because it'll give it a little slightly different texture, which will then allow you to make it look a little bit different. But move it around so that it's not too dark in any one space. And then just hit these areas in here. And again, you can see immediately the difference. And this is great for live action figures. So we're just going to go through on anywhere that dust would settle or where the creases are, because that's where grime would come and that's where shadows would be. And these are often the same textures that they would put on the real suit in the movie. It's just a hint of this. And sometimes they do too much, in my opinion, but to just make it look so that the muscles stand out, and that's all we're doing. Another thing you can do is you can actually take the toilet paper and you can wipe over some of these areas that you want to have be lighter, like that would have less grime. And while the wash is drying, you can actually kind of scrape off a little bit of it like this. And that allows you so that you don't have to go through and paint. It gives you some textures right off the bat and allows you to have these brighter areas and these darker areas naturally without having to go through and paint. What we're going to do real quick is I'm going to take some gunmetal gray here on the bat symbol, and I'm going to go through on some of the damage here and get it in there, and then I'm going to wipe it with my finger and just make it so that there's just a couple of slash marks in here. And if I need to take some black, I can put it over the top of it and spread it, make it so that it's not quite so, extreme. But, this had some, in the movie, just had some damage in some of these areas, and it helps to go through and add some of this. And you can put some on the belt too, if you want. Dings up just on the edges here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to throw on the silver on these and on the knuckles, because I don't think the gunmetal gray is going to stand out enough on those. But you can feel free on the boots too to just kind of brush a little bit on the hands and stuff, just to make it look a little bit more metal. Now we're going to go through with some silver on his knuckles. We could go with gunmetal gray, but I think it's not going to stand out enough, because he had brass knuckles for sure on this figure. And then he had the edges here on his things were silver as well. So we'll just go through there, add those details, and then we're just about done with this guy. So I'm going to have him hold on to this gun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the gunmetal gray over the top of it. And then we're going to paint the handle here brown, because it had like a wooden handle, it looked like. In the movie anyway, it looked like it had a wooden handle. So we'll do that to add some texture. I'll grab a little bit of silver too. Do the same thing, just to make it so that it's got some life here. Same thing with the Batarang. Just going to go over, because I'm going to have him hold one of these. I'm just going to ding it up with the silver. It looks like he's thrown it at a whole bunch of bad guys. Pretty simple, but he definitely turns out looking awesome. This guy now looks like he stepped right out of the movie. There's that scene after Superman's been killed. Spoiler alert, sorry, it was out like 10 years ago. If you haven't watched it yet. But he kind of lumbers out and there's fire behind him. This is what that looks like. This just brutal, buff Batman. Really happy with how he turned out. Now, go ahead and look at Superman and Batman together, you can see there's a scale difference, but there's been a scale difference between the Justice League figures and all of the other figures from the beginning. So I wasn't surprised, especially after taking the height down on his neck. And just a real quick postscript, I actually switched out the neck pegs on these two, and you can see that the height is a little bit better than it was before. And yeah, the Superman looks way better and the Batman looks a little taller. So I am super glad I experimented. So now you can end the video. Bye guys. But this guy looks awesome. I do wish that they were closer, like exact scale. I'm pretty sure they're going to come out with a Superman from BvS, and it will, I'm sure, be on here. I also wish I had one more really short neck piece to use for that Superman, because I think his neck is a little bit long too, but I don't have another small one. I used it on this, and that was the right choice. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends if they're into action figure customs that this is the place to be. We just have fun. Sometimes I produce stuff that's really cool, like this. Sometimes I produce garbage, but that's okay, because it's all a learning experience. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next week.